Initiative of us consultants. We informed the HRD, but it was mainly because we did not get any information until now. So we invited a group of experts on Swiss law and international law. Mr. and Mrs. Reddani are going to explain to us. They have 20 years experience in the field of taxation. They've been working mostly with international community here in Switzerland. So the idea would be they will make us a presentation. They'll give us a presentation on what is the standard, what are the terms, the laws in Switzerland, and how they apply to us. And then we'll have the opportunity to have a question and answer discussion. So please, let me welcome you. Thank you very much for coming, for accepting. I know they have been around all the agencies. They have been working over the clock like 24 hours. So very, very much appreciate your support. And the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, all of you, to be here. I wish I could be elsewhere because I'm not getting good news. Just two words about us. We have a company. We work exclusively, since it's public, I can say it. We take care of all IUCN, ICTSD, MMV, Red Cross, WWF. Since 20 years now, this is really our mastering. We really work on deep study of the special tax ruling agreement of coming out of les accords de siège, which is Vienna 46, 61, 64, etc. I don't know how to put it. I'll try to keep the same vocabulary that is good under the UN, which is very diplomatic. But I have to confess, nevertheless, that I'm quite angry because as a professional, in October 2013, I already knew the tectonic problems you are experiencing now. And I did publish an article in our biggest newspaper, Le Temps, warning the international organization, and I'm blaming nobody, about the mess that is created with this confusion and the misunderstanding, sometimes even from the employer, because the law is very complex, and we're talking about a very vague perimeter of jurisdictions. The UN is not in Geneva, it's elsewhere, it's an extraterritoriality. So the following tax lecture is based on our knowledge. This is the sentence saying that if I don't know about a special agreement between our foreign department, federal department, and the UN, well, I don't know, but what I will be telling you is based on our large experience and also on the law, and we can provide you with the articles, etc. So we knew this since 2013. We published, we spoke about substantial confusions that would come. I did myself contact the UNHR and I begged them to broadcast my tax article warning about the future issues, but they could not do it because there were some internal rules forbidding to broadcast external information inside the perimeter. This is the tax article in English in Envelope Info website. This is the article in French in Le Temps about confusion, substantial confusion of staff and subcontractor about the obligation on administrative level, social insurance, and as well as taxes. So more, it was difficult for us to do, but people, they do trust Reisbad below KPMG because it's names, etc. Worse than that, because my deep feeling was that we would have a big vague, which is now showing up, and I did send a letter to the Swiss mission even, warning them that there is a confusion about CDLH, etc. But I had as much success that if I would have sent my letter to God. Now we'll start. Who are you? So most of you are from abroad. You are holding a CDLH, and you are working mainly in Switzerland. What are your obligations once you land in Switzerland? You have, the law give you 7 days to announce yourself to your commune. So that's why all of you are under the radar. It's because the commune feeds at your arrival a database, and that database, the tax authority and social security authorities reaches, and that triggers the process. That's why nobody came to you. Because very most likely you have not announced yourself to the commune, or the job was not done. Now in Switzerland, it's upside down. It's not the tax authorities or the administration that come to you. It's your obligation to announce yourself beyond this limited process. And you have to subscribe to medical insurance. Again, so if you go to the commune, you say, don't show your CDLH, because it's like because I have a lot of noise, and people, they say, but I went to the tax, and they said no. I went to the social security, and I said no. And I asked that lady, could you tell me what document you provided? That lady came for family regroupment with her husband who was working in the UN. It was a CDL with no activity, no work. Okay? She started working. She did not ask to change the carte de légitimation. Of course the tax authority will say you are not submitted to tax. So it depends on the full elements you are handing over to have accurate information back from the tax authority and social security. So I apologize, my projections are not sexy because I did it in half an hour, and yesterday up to midnight 35 minutes I had TCs with all of you to clarify things. So you are a subcontractor. This is the UN tax exemption area. You are misled. You are not in the circle. Your shadow is there, not you.
Yeah.
So, can you be a subcontractor under CH law, and what are and under which conditions? So, subcontractor is like a consultant. We call it in French une raison individuelle. C'est un indépendant. There are strict conditions to be subcontractor and self-employed. You have to own the tool of your work, which is quite easy, your laptop, a printer, your car. You have to support the commercial risk. You have to take a risk, commercial risk. You don't have it. You have to organize your work by your own. You don't have to receive directive from your client. And you have to be independent. And you need minimum 3 clients. So you can see very quickly that it's not you. I'm not talking about you here, these conditions. So I don't have 3 clients, and I'm not free in my work planning. I have no commercial risk. No, you're not here. You are here. This is the UN. I'm sorry, but when it's tragic, we're left only with some humor. So you're not there. You cannot be there because the conditions are very clear. What is then my status? So I'm not saying you should go to one psychoanalyst, but 10 in the meantime, because you are really in the gray zone. You are nowhere, by the way. You are in the start. Because every law is entitled to something on you, but there are conflicts. There are massive conflicts. So this is the UN saying, you are my subcontractor, and this is you. I cannot be a subcontractor under Swiss law. So it's all the problems are coming from here. So now, let's say if it was not the UN, I'm not trying to trigger a civil war here, but just for you to understand, if that was a private company, you subscribe, you sign a subcontract. If the tax authority and social security discovers that you do not fulfill conditions to be subcontractor, this payer receives a work contract and has to pay all the social security. It's the payer who has to ensure that the payee fulfills the conditions to be self-employed. Otherwise, before he pay him, he has to withhold the social security. Now the problem is that they look to be in the same room, but it's two different galaxies. This UN is not under the jurisdiction of Switzerland. And if you read your contract under terms and conditions, I apologize, I'm recording myself because hundreds of you, I cannot speak this every time and I'm like to show people. So the problem here is that this one does not belong to the law word of this one. So that's the main problem. Who am I? So this is like Shakespeare. I'm sorry for you, but you are an Anobag AVS 6. You are orphans. You are orphan of an employer. Your employer is abroad. UN is not in Geneva. It's elsewhere. So when you work in Switzerland and when you got a work contract with an employer who is abroad, then the law say that since your employer is not submitted to the obligation to belong to Swiss Social Security, you are responsible of the two paritaire premiums. You have to pay your employer one and yours, because it's always half-half. And that's called AVS 6. So this is, so now we are talking about Paul Valéry, philosopher I love. He said, from time to time we have to do a wording cleaning. We have to understand what are we talking about. You have a work contract who is legal from civil point of view. But to my opinion, it is not under bracket legal in regard to the Swiss tax law and social security. I mean, these are facts. So thus, you are left with this situation. I know most of you ignored about it, but you have done, most of you have done nothing, and unfortunately, you are left only with the self-denunciation. That's a disposition in our law. It's a way for you to go to the tax authority. The conditions to have a self-denunciation with no fine. It happens once a life with no fine. You have to show a full collaboration. The tax authority at that moment has to have nothing in hand about you. That's the conditions. Huh? And then you have to do it in parallel to the tax authority and social security. Now, the tax authority, they are allowed to go 10 years back. The social security, normally, because this is not in the law but in the practice, they can go back 5 years. But, since these two entities, they have an obligation of information between themselves. If ever the tax authority know about you before the social security and warn the social security go up 10 years too. Now, when I called the social security, they said, no, 5 years, we don't care about it, we follow the tax authority. But we can challenge that position, at least do it, or with the brilliant tax advisors you would choose. I'm sorry, I should be very professional, cold, but I heard so many idiocies, even from lawyers that were hired, etc., that, excuse me if I don't keep calm, because I know the tremendous situation humanly you are in. I mean, we're talking about, who can trust this? I gave a tax lecture, and some people gave me separately their income. I did the calculation. The échantillon statistically was correct. I'm sorry, but it was a bomb. The debt in that room was over 15 million Swiss francs. Rarely people are aware about what we are talking about. Social security, it's 15%. Tax, let's say 20 to 25 to 35. Do it if you are here since 10 years. Anyhow, But there are some good news I'll tell you about. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should be, I should have come with a tie and black suit, but I don't care about those things. What I'm saying is that I just would like to recall Nietzsche. No laugh, no cry, but we understand what's really happening. Because it's emergency now. I mean, it's not fun party. So, what will be your tax burden and social security? I told you. So the tax burden depends on your worldwide situation, because in Switzerland you pay taxes according to your worldwide economic capacity. This is because the curve of the marginal tax rate is not linear, it's exponential. So when you add your husband or your spouse's income, even if you have two same salaries, we are not doubling the tax burden. Because the curve is exponential, it's more than double. So whenever you declare an income, you are entitled to deductions under Swiss law, and this is a crucial point that I want to develop a little bit with you. This is in our law. We declare all expenses that required the earning of your salary. So when you are a simple employee in a private company, you always deduct transportation, lunches, other expenses on a lump sum basis. The good news for you is that you can declare only on effective cost. This means that between an employee, a simple employee, and an AVS 6, which is your position, usually the tax burden is 30% less. Because under the Swiss law, when you are an employee, your employer is meant to be present to provide you with all the means, everything, so that you can achieve correctly your work. But when you are AVS 6 orphan, your employer is far away, you can deduct part of the surface of your house as an expense, as well from tax perspective and social security. These expenses you are entitled to before saying 15% social security hits my income. It's not your gross income, it's your net income. You can deduct telephone costs, you can deduct car insurance, you can deduct electricity home, you can deduct your parking. But the problem is that in your case, since I described the schizophrenic situation, your employer is here and in the meantime he's not here. So the tax assessor, if he's thin, if he's clever, he say, oh, they work for the UN, I know UN are Avenue de France, could you send me your contract? Send the contract, if he see that UN is providing you with a room, with an office, with an IT, etc., he would refuse, he would challenge those deductions. Okay? So this is why it's difficult to talk about your situation. You fit nowhere and everywhere in the meantime. So if you should focus on something, it's really to have serious discussion with the HR of the UN, and I'm sure they are keen in helping, because when the tax assessor, I said when it's tragic, we're left with humor. So if the tax assessor challenge whatever we have pushed through as expenses to reduce your taxable income and to reduce your net income submitted to the Social Security by saying, yes, we certify that this person, she has a room with us, but she can work due to our international hours from home. That would help us or the tax advisor to convince the tax assessor that he has to accept all those expenses. It can be IT, cartridge, I'm sorry, but it's not ridiculous, because I'll tell you another good news, because you don't have big income. I saw a couple of things. So this discussion, when you are an employee, you just deduct on lump sum basis. Where you are ANOBAG, AVS 6, you have to provide the profit and loss account, where you put, this is what I received, and these are all the costs that I have. And then you have to push through everything you can. And then they challenge the position, and then it's a dog fight. We know about that, and we like it. So this is 15%, as Mirai said. Yeah. And it's flat. Yeah, this is very important. This is flat. We take whatever you receive minus all expenses we can have, and then I'm sorry if you take pictures. I don't want to have a feeling I'm an artist, but I can give this to myself. But you can do it. I have no problem. So Social Security is flat, and the tax, unfortunately, there is a curve I want to talk about.
Quick question. Yeah.
If it's not personal question,
No.
because I'm recording.
The expenditure, you have to prove your expenditure, you have to have receipts and so on and so forth.
I've just said that an employee deduct on lump sum basis with no justification, but an ABS 6 has to, like self-employed, for the profit and loss account. But I mean, you take your credit card, put maximum, because we know we will have a big fight with them. Huh? But if UN say, no, we provide them with an office, with IT, with everything, and we're done. You see? So every time it's unbalanced in your disfavor. Since the beginning, it's like this. So no laugh, no cry, we just want to understand what happened. Yeah. Now, the tax system in Switzerland, so you're an OVAG, and you should have more deductions than a simple employee, since your employer is not meant to be guilty. UNHCR can seriously help by saying it happens for you to work from home, etc. I'm sorry. Yes, madam.
But if you work from home, you're in Switzerland, but when they work here, they are in no man land. The same that applies to the UN, that they are in no man elsewhere, they are also elsewhere because they are sitting in this place. I mean, even if we had an accident or something, the police from Switzerland doesn't come, it's the diplomatic police. So I think the venue of where they produce the work is very important, isn't it? They are working in no man lands, they are not working in Switzerland.
Yes, what you are saying, madam, belongs to common sense. I'm talking about. So what I'm just trying to give you to anticipate what can help you, since now it is done, how to reduce your tax burden and social security bill. So this is good news, madam. We can say they work in the UN, but we mean by UN maybe New York, maybe Vienna.
No,
So
we're talking about Switzerland, and we're dealing with Swiss taxation. And they are working in no man in the UN land, which is not Swiss, as you have said several times. So I don't think it's good to say they are working from home. That is Switzerland. The UN is not Switzerland, it's the UN.
No.
So they are working in no man lands, UN land for the UN.
From home means from your apartment.
Yeah, but that's in Switzerland.
No. The work contract is not saying that they work nowhere. The work contract should involve their residence in Geneva. So they are. It's the first time, sorry, because it's important from legal point of view. It's the first time that the Swiss mission is saying that these people are employee of the UN, ANOBAC 6. They don't say they are subcontractors. In the last directive they wrote, if I'm not mistaken, because we had to read 1,000 pages, it's AVS 6 ANOBAC. So if they are employee, they can deduct, but not on lump sum basis, but on effective costs. So what I invite you to is just to prepare whenever you had a trip, a travel, a training course, whatever, you try to collect the data so that you can use it to reduce your tax burden. Madam, I'm sorry, I hate questions with not accurate response. May I ask you kindly to ask me so that I'm fully convinced that I responded to you.
You said the employer, which is the UN, is not in Switzerland, is elsewhere. So are the employees. They are not in Switzerland because they are precisely working in the same way as the employer. That's what I think.
Correct. But
because they are already going into, they have to pay taxes, and I am before that to establish if they have or they have not to pay taxes.
Okay. This is very important. So, if you read the last directive of the Swiss mission, it's very clear. They say you are responsible of your taxes and you are submitted to the Swiss law and you are submitted to the Social Security. That's the Swiss mission, let's say. That's one. Secondly, there is the law. The law is very clear. Third, in the terms and condition of the work contract, of the subcontract, it is written, you have to pay, you don't have to pay. You are responsible of your taxes and Social Security, etc. I mean, the reality is there. It was confusing to identify the reality, but now, I mean, we are quite sure. To my opinion again. So this is important, I explain. Some of you who maybe they are holding a property outside Switzerland, etc. This is very important, you know, and you understand that you declare on a worldwide basis. So the liquid asset, the bank account, etc., they are taxable intuitu personae, it's physically where you reside, and your tax residence is in Switzerland. So when you have a foreign income, like from real estate, you can see that the curve is exponential, then this is wrong. It's asymptotic at 48%. So each 1,000 of your income is hit by a separate marginal tax rate, making a curve that is exponential. So if I put this curve with a logarithmic regression, if someone is here, he is paying a lot of money of tax, but he has to, these are the marginal tax rate, and this is the income and the wealth on a worldwide basis. So this person earns a lot, but he has to optimize his tax to do a lot of effort to reduce a little bit his tax burden. So the good news I want to speak about at the beginning is that you fit here in the most steep part of the curve. This means that if I give you one additional 1,000 francs, I create a mess in your tax burden because a big part of it will push up the tax burden. But everything you do to reduce your tax, such as the deductions I told you about, will bring you more than proportionally the advantage of reducing the tax burden. Okay? This one has to do a lot of things, but you are here because I know I received a couple of income and I know. So focus on this. Yes, madam, in 1 second. You focus on this. Keep this in mind. You are not rich people, okay? And you can do a lot to reduce that. Having said that, in Switzerland, we don't have the personal taxation. It's not the Anglo-Saxon-ism. It's the family who is the taxpayer. So you bear in mind that if the curve is like this, so you see that this curve is below the axis because these are the trainee, stagiaires, etc. They will have income, but they are so low that they benefit of social deduction, and then they vanish, they disappear. But all of you won't have that advantage. So you can see that if the first spouse has so much salary, okay, he will pay so much tax. And the second spouse, if he has a small salary, you see the impact. It's more than proportional. Okay? So it's not personal tax return, it's a joint tax return. And I will respond to all of your questions. Maybe I'll bring my bed, I'll live in the UN, but I will respond to all of your questions. So this is the curve. So if you have real estate, don't be afraid. Switzerland is not entitled to anything on your real estate, but Switzerland will consider your real estate in the determination of the marginal tax rate that will hit only the Swiss element. Okay? But it may increase only the rate that will hit the Swiss element. But it may also reduce the tax rate on Switzerland. Let's say you have a house, you have tenants, but you have done a lot of renovation and you have a lot of mortgage interest. If this is negative, then we will reduce the level of the tax rates that will hit the Swiss element. So what is the 30th September 2018 deadline? So this is c'est vraiment rageant parce que a lot of people speak about it. I'm sorry, they even lawyers, etc. They don't.
We cannot read. Could you just move a little, please? You are
I
in
can
front of
vanish,
the-
madam. You betray me and pay no tax. Yeah, sorry. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so first and foremost, the self-denunciation will remain in the law after the 30th of September. So that's not. It's. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Huh? In the law, you will still be entitled to do self-denunciation. So now, what is the tricky subject? It's very thin. It's not. The 30th of September is just the date where the tax authorities will consider themselves as having in hand information due to the automatic banking exchange agreement. Okay? So I told you that to benefit of self-denunciation with no fine, the tax authority should have nothing on you at that moment. Okay? Come to them, they see, we don't know this person, so they accept the self-denunciation with no fine. So the tricky thing is that the federal authorities, they gave instructions to the canton, like Vaud, Geneva, because we have 26, each canton has tax sovereignty. Yeah? Sorry. And the federal authorities said, on the 30th of September, you are meant to have already information about bank accounts of all the countries who signed the agreement. If you go to them the 2nd of October and you say, by the way, you decided to ask me to come with you. So we go there, we say, we have self-denunciation. They say, what is undeclared? It's not only the bank account, it's income. They will say, the income we'll talk about. The bank account come from where? Which countries? Germany, etc. We are sorry, but these countries, they signed the agreement EAR, l'échange automatique de renseignements. We refuse the self-denunciation with no fine. Then I will tell them, show me evidence that you have in hand the bank account about my client. They will say, even though we don't have them in hand, we are meant to have them. So this is the crucial 30th of September that everyone speak about. They make soup bubbles, and at the end, the story is that self-denunciation remain in the law. 30th of September is hypothetically, they will say, we know you. We know you. You are a German person. Germany is meant to send us information about you, although they have nothing in hand. Anyhow. Now, if on the 2nd of October we go and my client is Indian, and he say, yes, I have bank account in India, they say, yes, sir, India did not sign, or in which country they didn't sign, we accept the self-denunciation with no fine. So this is the story, okay? So it's not simple, but for so Geneva, now the problem is that the federal authorities, they sent a directive to the canton very recently. The canton, they did not even vote the law of application of the 30th of September. But Geneva told us that even if you go after the 30th of September, they swear they will not cut heads, but the fine will be a fifth of the tax avoided. So the tax burden and a fifth of it will be the fine. If you don't go before the 30th of September, I saw arms raised up, but I would like to fully respond. Yes, yeah, sorry, Mira is saying something important because, sorry, so Mirai is highlighting that the fine, they have a margin. It can go from 20, but sometimes they say we go from a third of the tax burden up to 3 times the tax burden, depending on the illusion. Is it a simple tax subtraction, or did you announce yourself to the commune and you withdraw it remaining here? That's tax fraudulence. You have to be careful. It's very sensitive. But yesterday, the head of the inspection of Geneva told me that it's 20%. If the self-denunciation with the fine is done after the 2nd of October. So, now, as I said, Mireille, did I cover all responses of MISO and
So you're speaking about the tax only, not the social security.
No, I spoke about social security. It's very easy. It's your income minus all expenses like car, etc., as long as we can prove. And then we reach an amount and we hit it by 15%. But it's correct what you say. It's important to understand that the bill of the social security is tax deductible. Okay? So the income submitted to the social security is whatever you received minus all expenses that we can push, and then the tax burden, the social tax burden, is deductible from the taxable income for the tax. Sorry.
So the 20% is on both tax and social security.
No, social security is 15%.
The fine.
No. Sorry. The fine.
Yeah.
The fine. It's if you send the letter before Sunday, there is no fine. They will just reopen. If it's after, it's a fifth of the tax burden. In Geneva, but Vaud, it's something else.
So you receive the bill for the tax burden itself, plus 20% of this amount as a fine.
Plus interest.
Plus interest. So if the result of the tax is 0, it's 20% of 0. In theory.
Oui, madame.
In terms of bank account declarations, are UN staff required to declare their bank accounts?
No.
Or is it only
okay, let me say something, because it's when you are an official staff member, you do not have to report anything, although if you're married and although your husband or spouse has to file tax return, he will report your name, but say fonctionnaire international, you don't report part of your wealth. It's usually half the spouses. The only exception where a full staff member has to report is when he has a Swiss property and I published an article on this. If you are staff member and you have property in Switzerland, if you have a property abroad, then you have to declare it, because it has to impact your global capacity. Is it?
But do you have to, in that situation, do you have to also report your bank accounts?
No. The wealth of the spouse who is working in the UN as an official staff member does not have to report his wealth, except real estate. Because real estate property follows the in situ rule. They are taxable at the place where, but this, sorry? Yes, if you're not Swiss person, because then when people turn to be Swiss, but it's very easy. You can find it on the website of the tax authorities and.
No, I just was asking about the 30th September essentially.
If you are a full staff member, you are not concerned by that. If you are a staff member and you have real estate, you are not concerned by that. But if you are a staff member and you owe a property in Switzerland, you have to report also your properties abroad. But the liquid asset, la fortune mobilière, est exemptée d'impôt pour les staff members.
Unless they are Swiss.
Unless they are Swiss, and Swiss, it's very specific. It's well explained on the website. You can go and you see, I am Swiss citizen, I'm not Swiss citizen. And possibly, sorry?
The question that remains open is that what happens when people wear consultancy for what they can.
Yes, that is a question. So I know you are diplomats, you're really scientists, but in science, the physicists, they know it, they say that you cannot corrupt the past. The past exists, whatever happened, it exists. If you broke your coffee glass, you can clean everything, but it nevertheless remained that you broke that coffee. You were here, you were not compliant, and I strongly invite you to do everything to be compliant. Now, although if after you are in the UN as a staff member, it has no retroactive effect. I know that you had some genius lawyers saying, oh, the chances you are caught are very low. Now, that go to jail, really. If a professional is caught telling people that most likely they may not be identified, he goes to arranges in a jail. It's not tax subtraction, that's really active tax fraudulence. And I strongly advise you to do it and to focus on the fact that you are not high salaries and most likely your tax burden would remain very decent. If the tax advisor does not create a mess because he would not have a clue about the specificity of your situation. I'm sorry, first miserable people. This lady is sitting on the ground.
I'm not miserable.
Does the same advice apply to people who used to be consultants but have now left Switzerland?
It's the same. It's the same thing.
Okay.
The tax stick to the period, civil period. It changed nothing. No. Even if you die, they send the bill. They have no temporal horizon. First, I sincerely apologize for my awful accent in English. It's not my mother tongue. If it's not correct, you ask me and I repeat. Okay. Yes?
Yes, thank you. I'm already just working on my own in my countries of living. I live in Belgium, and I already paid social taxes in Belgium. And this is for a full year. It means that I have a 3-month contract in Switzerland, so I already paid my social taxes in Belgium. Do I have to pay social taxes here again, taking into account the fact that there is a sharing of emotions between Switzerland and Belgium?
Okay. So to be frank with you, I should be sincere. I should forbid myself to speak about social security because there are specific experts for social security. Having said that, I know that there is a possibility offered through the numerous documents I read where under certain conditions you can keep belonging to your home country system. Now, if you are required to pay in both countries, you can refer to the European Court of Justice. The double taxation is forbidden in all the EU. But I know that I read something for training people for short period, and otherwise it's the A103 form, say the A1 form that oblige the two countries to agree so that you don't suffer a double taxation.
This is for social security, but taxes, I will pay taxes here.
Yeah. So,
the social security will be paid.
Okay, let me tell you one thing. When you are on secondment, you may belong to your home country social security, but taxes you pay in the country where you work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless you're an American citizen.
Yeah.
So for those of us who had to pay U.S. taxes and are paying those, I'm a little concerned because I paid about, 20% in payroll taxes and state taxes already. Does that mean that on top of that, I have to pay the full Swiss tax amount?
I swear that at the beginning I will speak about normal people. You know? So, Well, first, your president does not recognize you, and so on. Okay, no, it's a joke. So, when you are American, you belong to a country who is in a permanent violation of tax territoriality international principle. So now it's not a joke. So you still belong to the IRS. So you pay your taxes in the country where you work, and then you claim the tax as a tax credit from the IRS for the portion of your income above 100,000 US dollar. To my understanding, because I have a client in. Now, Social Security, I know there is an agreement between, because you have to understand that we're talking about the Convention Double Taxation Treaties, CDIs, and there are hundreds of them, and each one is like this. So to tell you out of head, I prefer you send me an email and I will respond to you.
Just a very quick question. HR has just sent us template letters to send to ABS and to the taxation. Is that the best way to do it?
So we have started helping some of you, but now we are in such hurry that we strongly advise you to send that letter, add just a sentence. Due to the pressure of time, I will send later on an ampliative file with all the information. Okay? I will send in the future an ampliative file with all information, because now it's Sunday. The stamp of it's Sunday. Sorry. Yes?
We just received an email from HR about the 30th September deadline. I'm sorry, I was reading it. Okay.
And what are they saying?
They're saying it doesn't apply to assets that you acquired in Switzerland. It applies to assets acquired outside of Switzerland that you did not declare.
This is really a joke.
I know, that's what I'm talking about.
No, anyhow, well, you know, I will not correct everything that is wrong, because I'm just telling you, this is what the law say, this is our understanding, and then...
I know it's very hard to estimate because the tax, because it depends on the salary and it depends on the deductions.
This question is very good. So please, your attention. I have to tell you something. People, they treat by disdain their tax burden. If I tell you that sometime you start working at 9, you finish paying your taxes at 12, because of the marginal tax, it's worth to give it time now, since the UN offered us this opportunity. For a salary of 3,000 with no deductions, 3,000 only, the tax burden would be 7,000. For a salary of 4,000, the tax burden would be 11,000. For a salary of 5,000, it can be 15. These are just rough figures. We are always. Sorry?
For typical monthly salaries of 3,000 or 4,000, your annual tax burden would be approximately that number.
Correct. No, because please, one question. Please. I'm a man, not a woman. I can't read one thing in my head. So, yes, sir.
Does the September 30th deadline apply to people who've just started their contracts this year?
I would say no, but the problem is that you are still unknown by the tax authority. Because did you register in the commune?
Me?
Yes.
I didn't. I haven't done anything.
Exactly.
I just got my card.
That's why it's important you send a letter to the tax authority. You say, don't be misled. I am an HCDL holder. I am not staff member. I am a subcontractor. ANOBAC AVS6. ANOBAC AVS6. And then you have to announce yourself to the Social Security and to the tax authorities. Sorry.
Even if we started this year.
No. If you started this year, when? Yesterday? Today? 3 months ago?
Yeah, last July, just July.
Just July? Yeah. So, to my understanding, we can no, sorry. It is too early that they can quote you for a logical tax cycle of time, which is 1 year.
There is. I want to kind of clear them.
Don't say that it's due to the 30th of September. You just say, I would like to start payment of taxes, that's all. And Social Security.
One more question.
Yes?
The Social Security law is universal, or it also depends upon the agreement between two countries? So like with India and Switzerland, there is an agreement. I can share you the document that they are governed by their respective countries' Social Security laws, not where they are going to live. So then if that exemption is already there between bilateral agreement, do I need to kind of connect to the Social Security?
Okay. The authorities, they have such power that I always advise client to send just a letter. You say, I benefit of the agreement between India, etc., and keep the trace that you have sent it to them, because they can find you after if it's not correct. Yes, sir.
I've been 3 years
Please,
ago.
sorry.
3 years ago, and I've been to the tax office, and they told me you don't have a bank account, you don't exist, you shouldn't pay anything. I've been to France, and they say you do not pay in France, so you shouldn't pay anything. And now you have all these things. So it's very, when you've been there in both tax things, and people tell you no, now it's like, what is happening?
No. Okay, well imagine I come to the UN and I speak to the police guy at the entrance and I tell him, could you please give me a comment of the resolution of 1967, Article 7.6, about this or that? Of course he cannot, because all of you, your tax assessment will be with the complex tax affair at la Rue du Stand at l'AFC. It's not simple tax assessor. I was not there, but if I tell you the sentence that you have to write, you will see. They will not tell you you don't pay tax.
But
No.
if you've been there, people can refer to.
I trust you. I'm just saying that you did not express the reality of your situation. Once you show them CDL, they say, oh, this belongs to the UN. Don't forget that this is human. Huh? Our brain expectation is not to understand, it's to have psychological comfort. The guy doesn't want to have red headache. So if you say, I'm not a staff member, no. So, but I have even people, they went there, they put them in tax at source, when there is no legal base for tax at source for ANOBAG AVS 6. I agree with you, but that's it. But what you should do, go back, ask for the guy who you spoke to, you tell him, you told me that, you agree, sign me a letter, and take the letter, don't pay tax. I'll defend your case. But they will never do it. If you went there at 5 minutes to 5, the guy, 3/3 of his brain is already gone. But send letter. I trust just everything written. I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
Yes?
I have a question. The subsistence allowance, I don't know if you mentioned at the beginning, is taxable. It's the subsistence allowance. The per diem. It's taxable also. It's separated.
It's not under this law. I mean, let me explain. WHO will give us a living allowance, which is some money calculated on the basis of more or less 300 or something per day, just to compensate on people moving here. It's like a relocation package. So will that be considered as an allowance, social allowance?
Okay. So since now we agreed, and it is agreed, and the Swiss mission is saying you are not subcontractor, you are employee of the UN ANOBAG AVS 6. It's the responsibility to the employer to provide a yearly salary certificate at the end of the year. This is really an obligation. Huh? Now, since the UN, there is this confusion, and even they cannot do it easily, simply. And generally, when you can prove that you have kept a strong link with your home country, that you are here but just for work, you know, you have a house or your family is still there, etc. Usually we can challenge the taxation of the per diem you told me about. We can say, no, this is a compensation because this person is here with a limited contract time. She's still back home to... I cannot tell you more, but...
And the second question, the social security is given after I leave the country, but in my case, like my country, we don't pay it. So I want to know if
Alors, ça c'est encore, it's a dormant camel. So, there is, in the law, il y a le principe de symétrie. You cannot be asked to pay something with the advantage. That does not exist. Huh? So once you pay AVS, when you retire, you will receive a pension from Switzerland. That's for sure. Now, in some cases, when you belong to a third world country like mine, because they treat it by disdain, like Morocco or whatever, they say, we don't want to break our head with this person in our database 40 years again. We can reimburse you and then you leave. Bye-bye. This is, but again, in the law, it's not, but legally, you pay, for example, you pay AVS, you receive 300 a month per child allowance. You benefit of the disability for sickness reason itself. But be careful. When I say AVS, that's only the first pension fund in Switzerland. There is the second pillar. Okay? In your case, it's not mandatory. You can choose to belong to the second pillar. The first pillar, if you're married and should you have worked since 18-year-old until 65 in Switzerland as a couple, you receive only 3,000 a month. But the second pillar is meant to represent 65% of your income as a superannuation when you retire. And this, I will need really hours to explain this to you, but you can have a second pillar only when you subscribe to, when you are paying the first pillar. The first pillar is something mutualized. It's like solidarity. But the second pillar, it's an individual saving, and it is not added with the other people. And if you allow me 1 second, I'm sorry, I insist. This is very important for all of you. The UN, they put 2 pages. They didn't want me to write a lot. Okay. So, I'm sorry. Yes, madam?
You can continue. I can ask after. It's a different...
No, it's not you, madam. It's another lady. I'm sorry. I have light in my eyes, but I can see stars in the sky.
No,
Okay.
it's just, I appreciate this discussion on pension, but really the critical information is this letter. Can you summarize what you meant by saying what, and that you're allowed to say that you will declare more in the future?
Okay.
Is that just to meet the deadline?
No, no. If you don't want to fine, 30th of September. The Madame Mehmeti, she's the head of the inspection. She's the lady who will deal with all this self-denunciation. I spoke to yesterday because, you know, UN, you know yourself, it's the UN, international organization. It's the same between us and the tax authority. We go to school, we have training together, so we know them. And she told me we will be quite large and we will not annoy these people. But please ask them to send us a letter, although it's not formally correct. You just take the UN letter, send it, say, this is the letter. To meet the 30th of September, I will send you later on the additional information.
Can you explain what this UN letter is? Because I don't think all of us are aware of it.
I don't work in the UN, madam, but I saw they were...
What are you thinking about? What you just say a letter, hi, my name is X, I worked in the country for this amount of time. Do you say your income, do you not say your income, do you have to give your bank account?
Okay.
What should be included in this?
Okay, MISO and Stratos, they can give you the path of a form where it's summarized. This is my liquid asset, I work since 2015